Although there's never been an official explanation for the lights over Tinley Park, there are some people who believe that these were nothing more than flares tied to balloons. And it's an interesting theory, one that we have to test. So that's what we're doing here today. We're actually going to set some balloons with flares aloft and see if they look anything like the Tinley Park footage from 2004.
Cleared by local authorities, the test will allow the team to compare the color and intensity of the flares, as well as the way the balloons and flares move in the night sky, with the original footage of the lights over Tinley Park. But Ted's analysis proved the lights were connected by something solid, so if this was a hoax, it was rather elaborate.
We suspect that there's a frame between the lights, an object between the lights that you can't see in the darkness. So what we're doing to test this out is we're building triangles out of the PVC pipe and attaching flares to the end of those corners. So in effect, we're making our own flying triangles out of flares and balloons. Let's see what they look like compared to the footage we have.
As the team unloads their equipment, the weather begins to take a turn for the worse. Much worse.
We're looking at major lightning right now, big storm coming this way. We have to shut this thing down and get inside and get some shelter.
Bill and Pat manage to get the materials for the experiment inside, but the danger is far from over.
They don't call this Tornado Alley by accident.
I grew up in California. We just don't have this. I've seen lightning before. I've heard a little bit of thunder. This is, what can I say, but welcome to Illinois.
As you can hear, we've got a lot of bad weather coming in.
The team is in rural Illinois, in a controlled environment supervised by local authorities. In spite of the weather, the team soldiers on, building the PVC frame. 3 weather balloons, 5 feet in diameter, are filled with helium gas and attached to the frame. But it soon becomes apparent that the frame is too heavy for the balloons to lift.
The larger we got, the heavier the frame got, and the more impossible it was for the balloons to lift this thing. So it just seems like if they're describing a giant triangle, there's just no way these balloons could lift this thing. It would take possibly hundreds or even thousands of balloons to lift a structure that large.
They know from Ted's analysis the object is massive, and the lights are connected. It's unclear how such a hoax could be possible. Still, the team works to get the balloons airborne and in formation in order to compare the flares to the strange lights on the videos.
I think the lightning has passed. We may have a window to launch.
Sam Moranto and several eyewitnesses from 2004, Bill Dooley and his son Nick, and Bob Peterson and his son Tyler arrive for the test.
Since they saw the lights with the naked eye originally, they're the best witnesses to tell us, hey, this looks like the lights we saw, this didn't look like the lights we saw.
For test purposes, they've also brought the same cameras they filmed the Tinley Park lights with in August of 2004.
So what we want to do is maybe use their cameras to take footage of the balloons that we launch and compare them to their footage from 2004. Let's see how it matches up.
The 3 balloons are attached on a line at 15-foot intervals. A flare is then suspended from each balloon.
Gentlemen, light your flares. Make everyone launch. Balloon 2.
Go ahead, Dave.
While Sam and the team have only seen the video evidence of the Tinley Park lights, Bob, Bill, and their sons are eyewitnesses. They know firsthand what the object looked like in 2004. The quality of the colors, the way it held its triangular form, and how it moved across the night sky.
Now, what we saw in the summer of 2004 was much steadier flow of light, not jerking around like they did. The color was bright red, like you'd see a light on top of a cell tower. This was more orange, more pink, so no, nothing like it.
Bob Peterson's initial impression is that the 2004 lights are a hoax, but this demonstration has given him a new perspective.
Based on what I saw tonight, no, I don't think it was a flare. There was just too much that was different about it.
He thought they were flares, but now he's looking at flares, and he says they did not behave the way the lights behaved when he first saw them on August 21st and October 31st.
A final meeting with Sam Maranto reveals that the night of the original sighting, August 21st, 2004, may be part of a worldwide UFO flap. And Tinley Park's history of UFO sightings didn't begin in 2004.
As you may have already found out and have some indication, this area has been a hotbed for activity. Project Blue Book, the Air Force actual investigation into UFO phenomena, actually had one of their cases here in Tinley Park.
What was the case?
The case was two young men seeing an unusual object. They reported it, and it was investigated and still remains unknown. And that was in the early 60s.
Was there any other activity around the case that we're working with now?
Well, I tell you one thing, Pat. We had August a hot month. Objects very similar to what was seen out here was seen on the 18th in Canada. On the 19th, we have that object over Minneapolis, St. Paul, hovering there for a period of almost 9 hours. Then here we go, the 21st in Tinley Park. After that, Houston, Texas. A few hours later into the 23rd, what do we have in Melbourne, Australia? Same thing again.
Is it possible that these were all sightings of the same object?
What was the date of the Australia sighting?
The Australia sighting was on the 23rd, but remember, their dateline is ahead of us by 16 hours.
What are the chances of these lights popping up here and then in Australia a couple days later? On the very next day.
Sam Maranto has uncovered video from Australia that appears to show two of the Tinley Park type objects, seen here for the first time.
Oh no, my battery's running out. Oh, no, Mum.
On September 30th, 2005, the same configuration of lights returns to Tinley Park and again is widely seen and taped by the residents. The object appears to be the same one seen in 2004, and yet another sighting occurs barely a month later, on October 31st, Halloween 2005. With all of the evidence gathered for this case, the team waits for Ted to weigh in on the experiment. How will the new footage stand up to the original 2004 video of the mysterious lights over Tinley Park?
When I saw those three lights in the footage, nothing came to mind instantly that, hey, oh, that's a commercial airliner, that's a helicopter. I'm very intrigued. There's something unusual there, and I hope to get to the bottom of it.
Now, with footage in hand, Ted and Terrence are preparing to scrutinize several aspects of Bill and Pat's experiment.
Even with an absolutely perfectly still, calm atmosphere, you're still going to get this kind of unrelated random motion to these 3 points.
Right.
Now, of course, in this case, there was some kind of wind, and they're just all over the place.
As Bill and Pat noted in the field, their balloons behaved erratically in the wind, in stark contrast to the 2004 footage. According to National Weather Service data, on the night of the experiment, winds are clocked at 12 miles per hour. In 2004, the winds are more than twice as strong at 30 miles per hour. Yet the lights do not exhibit the same erratic behavior as the flares and balloons.
I mean, I could imagine a tether, like a nylon filament tether,
right,
but that would only limit the distance this way, but not this way. And we're seeing that they're not kind of bouncing in towards one another and hitting outer limits. They're locked
What this seems to reinforce to the team is that the 2004 lights must be locked in place via some form of rigid structure. Without this, the light should exhibit the same volatile behavior as the experiment video.
The longer it holds that configuration, the stronger and stronger the case if they are actually locked. That's a pretty important conclusion.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely not three independent floating flares.
But does this prove that the witnesses in Tinley Park and other locations around the world photographed a flying craft? Ted and Terrence also want to contrast the color and light quality of the flares in comparison to the original footage.
Unfortunately, it's very hard to tell with these consumer-grade cameras. The exposure settings and the sensitivity is such that you can shoot dramatically different colored lights, and very often you're going to see them basically bloom to almost solid white. The biggest difference that's pretty clear to me is the intensity differences. Right. The flickering, basically, for lack of a better word, is very evident in the flares.
Ted and Terrence also look for scintillation, any fluctuation in the quality of the light. A constant light source will have less scintillation than a less stable source, like the flares.
To me, it's actually an illuminating source. It's very clear, some kind of light, as opposed to some kind of burning combustion.
Which will have its own variability.
Right.
But Terrence brings up another intriguing point of comparison. The experiment clearly shows the flares dropping residue, but in the original video from 2004, there is no evidence of any residue.
I'd love to be able to say that our experiment and our analysis of the evidence leaves us with a very credible explanation. This was flares floating on balloons. But I can't say that. I think it's extremely unlikely that is the explanation for what we have here.
I could say definitively that there's no way that I can see any kind of tethered balloon, light source, flare or otherwise, would be responsible for the footage that we have. Without saying it's an alien spacecraft, I can definitively say, by the strictest definition, it is an unidentified flying object.
The Tinley Park case is a really interesting case to me. We've got a lot of data. We have a lot of witness testimony. We were able to do some extremely quantitative scientific analysis of our evidence. To the best of my ability, I can't put my finger on an explanation to say, oh, it was something terrestrial. All I can say is that I can't explain what it is, and yet is a highly credible, corroborated case. So there's something there, and I can't explain what it is, and that is very intriguing to me.
I believe we have a genuine, anomalous aerial event that occurred over Tinley Park in 2004. Some people say it was a hoax, but we have no evidence that it was a hoax. Now, I know in other UFO cases, pilots, both military and civilian, have come across these orbs of light, and that could be what we're dealing with here. So in my opinion, this case is still open.
You have to ask yourself, are these people seeing the same object in the sky? Is this a worldwide UFO phenomenon? Or is this a worldwide UFO hoax?
Both scientific and subjective testimony suggests that the object was not flares attached to weather balloons. Video analysis reveals something of massive size. Does the Tinley Park mass sighting and the mountain of visual evidence around it provide a glimpse of an actual UFO? Or are the answers still floating somewhere in the skies above Tinley Park?